In 1871, I found a photograph of a girl holding a doll, her eyes hiding a chilling secret. When I zoomed in, those eyes revealed a truth that changed everything I thought I knew. Before we dive into this haunting story, hit that subscribe button and join our community of curious minds. Don't miss out on more eerie tales like this one. I was rummaging through my grandmother's attic last summer, searching for forgotten treasures. Among dusty trunks and faded letters, I found an old photograph tucked inside a wooden box. It was dated 1871, showing a young girl, no older than 10, clutching a porcelain doll. Her expression was solemn, almost too still for a child. The doll's face mirrored hers, with wide, glassy eyes that seemed to stare right through me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The photograph was heavy in my hands, its edges worn but intact. I turned it over, hoping for a clue, but only a faint inscription read, Amelia, 1871. No last name, no context. My curiosity sparked. I needed to know more. I brought the photo downstairs, setting it under the lamp. The girl's eyes seemed to follow me, unblinking. I brushed it off as a trick of the light, but as I stared longer, a chill ran down my spine. There was something in those eyes, something alive. I decided to scan the photograph to get a better look. My laptop hummed as the image loaded, pixel by pixel. Zooming in, I focused on the girl's face, expecting typical Victorian stoicism. But her eyes were unnervingly sharp, almost reflective. The doll's eyes, too, had an eerie glint, like they held a secret. I adjusted the brightness, thinking it was a flaw in the scan. It wasn't. The closer I looked, the more I noticed a faint outline within her pupils. It wasn't just a reflection. It looked like a shape, a figure. My heart raced as I zoomed in further, the image growing grainy but unmistakable. There, in her left eye, was the silhouette of a woman, her face contorted in anguish. I blinked, thinking my mind was playing tricks. But the figure remained, etched into the photograph's very essence. I sat back, my breath shallow, unsure what I'd uncovered. I couldn't stop staring at the photograph, my mind spinning with questions. Who was this girl, Amelia? And why did her eyes hold such a haunting image? I searched online for photography techniques from the 1870s, hoping for answers. Daguerreotypes, common then, could capture strange artifacts, but this felt different. The woman's face in Amelia's pupil wasn't a double exposure or a smudge. It was deliberate, precise, almost as if placed there. I read about spirit photography, a Victorian trend where photographers claimed to capture ghosts. Could this be one of those? I dismissed the thought, too fantastical. Yet, the doll's eyes mirrored the girl's, showing the same faint figure. I felt a growing unease, like I was being watched. I closed my laptop, but the image lingered in my mind. I had to know more about Amelia and her doll. The next day, I visited the local historical society, photograph in hand. The curator, an older woman with a knack for old records, examined it closely. She noted the dress and hairstyle, confirming it was from the 1870s. But when I pointed out the eyes, she frowned, adjusting her glasses. "This is unusual," she murmured, zooming in on her computer. The woman's face in the pupil became clearer, her expression one of torment. The curator shook her head, saying she'd never seen anything like it. She suggested checking town records for an Amelia from that era. We pored over dusty ledgers, finding an Amelia Hawthorne, born 1861, died 1872. My stomach dropped. She was 11 when she died, a year after the photo. The cause of death, unknown. Back home, I couldn't let it go. Amelia's story felt personal now, like she was reaching out across time. I studied the photograph again, noticing the doll's intricate dress, identical to Amelia's. It wasn't just a toy. It felt like an extension of her. I researched Victorian dolls, learning they were often custom-made, sometimes with unsettling realism. Could the doll hold a clue? I zoomed into its eyes again, and there it was, the same woman's face, her features sharper in the doll's glassy pupils. My hands trembled as I realized this wasn't a coincidence. The photograph was hiding something deliberate, something meant to be seen. I felt a pull to dig deeper, to uncover what tied Amelia, the doll, and this ghostly figure together. I started visiting antique shops, hoping to find similar dolls from the era. Most were porcelain, delicate, with painted eyes, but none matched the eerie realism of Amelia's. One shopkeeper, an old man with a knack for creepy relics, listened to my story. When I showed him the scanned photo, his face paled. "That's no ordinary doll," he whispered, pointing to its eyes. He spoke of Victorian superstitions, how some believed dolls could trap spirits. I laughed nervously, but his words stuck with me. Back home, I examined the photo under a magnifying glass. The woman's face and the eyes seemed to shift slightly, as if reacting to my gaze. My rational mind screamed it was impossible, but my gut told me otherwise. I began having dreams about Amelia. In them, she stood in a foggy field, holding the doll, her eyes locked on mine. She never spoke, but the woman's face from the photograph hovered behind her, mouthing silent words. I woke up each time in a cold sweat, the photo on my nightstand seeming to glow in the dark. I started researching Amelia Hawthorne's family. Town records mentioned her mother, Eliza, who vanished in 1871, the same year as the photo. No death certificate, no trace, just gone. My mind raced. Was Eliza the woman in the eyes? I felt like I was piecing together a puzzle, but the pieces didn't fit. The doll, the eyes, the disappearance. It all pointed to something darker. I contacted a photography expert, sending her the scanned image. She confirmed it was a daguerreotype, but the clarity of the eyes was unnatural for the time. "It's almost like someone painted the figure into the pupils," she said, puzzled. She suggested taking it to a lab for spectral analysis, but I couldn't afford that. Instead, I kept digging into Eliza Hawthorne's disappearance. A newspaper clipping from 1871 mentioned a local woman, presumed dead, last seen near the town's old mill. No name was given, but the timing matched. I visited the mill, now a crumbling ruin, feeling a strange pull. The air there was heavy, like it held secrets. I clutched the photograph, half expecting Amelia to appear. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind consumed by the photograph. I kept it on my desk, its presence almost alive. I decided to try something risky. I spoke to it. "Amelia, what happened to you?" I whispered, feeling foolish. The room grew colder, the air thick. I swear the doll's eyes shifted, just for a second. My heart stopped, but I pressed on, asking about Eliza. Nothing happened, but the silence felt heavy, expectant. I laughed it off, blaming my imagination. But as I turned away, I heard a faint creak, like footsteps on old wood. I spun around, but no one was there. The photograph sat unchanged, yet I felt it was watching me, waiting. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind consumed by the photograph. I kept it on my desk, its presence almost alive. I decided to try something risky. I spoke to it. "Amelia, what happened to you?" I whispered, feeling foolish. The room grew colder, the air thick. I swear the doll's eyes shifted, just for a second. My heart stopped, but I pressed on, asking about Eliza. Nothing happened, but the silence felt heavy, expectant. I laughed it off, blaming my imagination. But as I turned away, I heard a faint creak, like footsteps on old wood. I spun around, but no one was there. The photograph sat unchanged, yet I felt it was watching me, waiting. We're only a third into this chilling mystery, and the clues are piling up. What's hiding in those eyes? Stick with me as we unravel more. The next morning, I felt drained but determined. I visited the library, diving into microfiche records from 1871. A small article caught my eye. A local photographer, Samuel Vance, was known for experimental techniques. Could he have taken Amelia's photo? I tracked down his surviving records at the Historical Society. Most were mundane portraits, but one note mentioned a special commission for the Hawthorne family in 1871. My pulse quickened. The note described a portrait of a girl and her doll, with unique enhancements. No further details, but it felt like a lead. I imagined Vance tampering with the photo, embedding the woman's face. But why? I needed to find his studio. Vance's studio was long gone, but old maps showed it near the mill. I returned to the site, the photograph in my pocket. The air felt heavier this time, almost oppressive. I wandered the ruins, picturing Amelia posing there, her doll in hand. I found a rusted sign, barely legible. Vance Photography, EST 1865. This was the place. I sat on a broken beam, studying the photo again. The woman's face and the eyes seemed to shift, her mouth slightly open now. I blinked, thinking I was losing it. But the change was real. I felt a chill, like someone was standing behind me. I turned, but the mill was empty. I started researching Vance's life. He was a recluse, rumored to dabble in the occult. Locals called him eccentric, claiming he believed photographs could capture souls. I scoffed, but the idea gnawed at me. What if he'd done something to Amelia's photo? Something unnatural? I found a journal entry from Vance, archived online, mentioning a gift for a grieving family. It was dated days after Eliza's disappearance. My mind raced. Could the doll be the gift? I looked at the photograph again, the doll's eyes now seeming to pulse. I felt like I was being pulled into their gaze, trapped. I reached out to a paranormal investigator I found online, desperate for answers. She examined the scanned photo and gasped. "This is a soul trap," she said, her voice shaking. She explained that some Victorian photographers believed they could bind spirits to objects, like dolls or photos. I didn't fully believe her, but her words echoed the shopkeepers. She advised me to stop looking at the eyes, saying they could pull you in. I laughed nervously, but agreed to store the photo away. That night, I hid it in a drawer, but I could still feel its presence. The air in my room felt charged, like a storm was coming. I tried to focus on normal life, but the photograph haunted me. I kept the drawer locked, yet I heard faint scratches at night, like something trying to get out. I told myself it was just stress, but my dreams grew darker. Amelia now appeared with the doll's face, her eyes hollow. The woman's face hovered closer, whispering words I couldn't hear. I woke up one night to find the drawer open, the photo on my desk. My heart pounded. I hadn't touched it. I grabbed the photo, intending to burn it, but I couldn't. Those eyes held me, demanding I keep going. I decided to confront the mystery head-on. I contacted a local historian who specialized in the occult. He agreed to meet me at the mill, bringing old texts on Victorian spiritualism. He examined the photo, his face grim. "This is no ordinary daguerreotype," he said, pointing to the eyes. He believed Vance had used a ritual to embed a spirit, likely Eliza's, into the photo. The doll, he said, was a conduit, amplifying the effect. I felt sick. Had Amelia been part of some experiment? The historian warned me to destroy the photo, but I wasn't ready. I needed to understand why this happened. Back at home, I studied the photo under UV light, hoping to reveal hidden details. The woman's face glowed faintly, her features sharper than ever. I could see tears in her eyes, frozen in time. My hands shook as I realized this wasn't just a trick. It was real. I started hearing whispers when I held the photo, faint but undeniable. "Help me," they seemed to say. I felt a mix of fear and pity. Was Eliza trapped in there somehow? I researched soul traps, finding stories of objects holding restless spirits. The doll's role nagged at me. It wasn't just a prop. It was central to this mystery. I visited a psychic, clutching the photograph like a lifeline. She recoiled when I showed it to her, refusing to touch it. "There's pain in this," she said, her eyes wide. She saw a vision of a woman, Eliza, screaming as a man, likely Vance, performed a ritual. The doll was present, its eyes glowing in her vision. She said Amelia was caught in the crossfire, her innocence used to anchor the spirit. I left shaken, the pieces falling into place. Vance had done something to Eliza, and Amelia paid the price. The psychic urged me to release them, but I didn't know how. The photo felt heavier now, almost alive. I couldn't ignore the scratches from the drawer anymore. One night, I woke to find a photo on my pillow, the doll's eyes staring up at me. I screamed, shoving it back into the drawer. My rational mind was crumbling. I contacted the historian again, begging for a way to end this. He suggested a cleansing ritual, but warned it could be dangerous. I didn't care. I needed closure. I gathered salt, candles, and sage, following his instructions. As I lit the candles, the air grew thick, the photos seeming to hum. I spoke Eliza's name, asking her to leave. The whispers stopped, but the eyes still watched. The ritual didn't work. If anything, the photo felt more alive. I noticed new details in the eyes, a faint hand reaching out, as if Eliza was trying to escape. I was terrified but couldn't stop. I dug deeper into Vance's life, finding a letter he wrote before his death in 1873. He confessed to meddling with forces beyond control, mentioning a girl and her mother. My blood ran cold. He admitted the doll was a vessel, meant to hold a spirit for eternity. Amelia's death, he wrote, was an accident, a consequence of his ritual. I felt sick, realizing she was collateral damage in his twisted experiment. We're deep into this chilling tale, and the truth is darker than I imagined. Amelia and Eliza are bound to this photo, but how do we free them? Stay with me for the final stretch. I couldn't keep the photo in my house anymore. It felt like a curse, its presence suffocating. I took it to the mill, hoping to break the connection there. The air was colder than before, the ruins eerily silent. I placed the photo on a stone, speaking to Eliza and Amelia. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice shaking. I poured salt around it, lit sage, and prayed for their release. The air grew heavy, almost unbreathable. I swear I saw a shadow move in the photo, the woman's face twisting. I stumbled back, my heart racing. The photo didn't burn, didn't change. It just sat there, defiant. I left it, hoping distance would help. That night, I dreamed of Amelia again, but she was different. Her eyes were empty, the doll's face now hers. The woman, Eliza, stood beside her, her hands on Amelia's shoulders. She spoke, her voice clear. "Find the doll." I woke up gasping, the words echoing. The doll was the key, not the photo. I realized I'd been focusing on the wrong object. But where was it? The photograph was all I had. I searched online for 1870s dolls, hoping to track it down. Every lead was a dead end, but I felt Eliza urging me on, her voice in my mind. I returned to the antique shop, showing the shopkeeper the photo again. He recognized the doll's dress, saying it matched a rare model from a local craftsman. He had no record of it, but suggested checking estate sales from the Hawthorne family. I found a lead, a sale in the 1880s that included a child's doll, finely dressed. It was sold to a collector, now long dead. I tracked his descendants, finding a woman who owned a collection of Victorian dolls. She agreed to meet me, intrigued by my story. I felt a spark of hope, like I was finally close to answers. The collector's house was a museum of creepy relics. She showed me her dolls, each more unsettling than the last. Then I saw it, Amelia's doll, its porcelain face unmistakable. Its eyes were the same, glassy and alive. I showed her the photo, and she gasped. "This was my grandfather's," she said, explaining he'd bought it at an auction. She let me examine it, and I felt a jolt when I touched it. The eyes held the same woman's face, clearer than in the photo. I asked to buy it, but she refused, saying it felt wrong. I left, determined to find a way. I couldn't stop thinking about the doll. I researched ways to break a soul trap, finding rituals that required the object itself. I contacted the historian again, explaining everything. He said the doll and photo needed to be destroyed together, in the place they were bound, the mill. I convinced the collector to lend me the doll, promising to return it. She reluctantly agreed, sensing my desperation. I felt a mix of dread and resolve as I held it, its weight heavier than it should be. The eyes seemed to follow me, just like in the photo. I was ready to end this. I returned to the mill at dusk, the photo and doll in hand. The air was thick, the sky gray. I set up the ritual, salt, candles, sage, placing the doll beside the photo. I spoke to Eliza and Amelia, apologizing for what happened. The wind picked up, howling through the ruins. I lit the sage, its smoke curling around the objects. The doll's eyes glowed faintly, the woman's face clearer than ever. I poured salt over them, chanting words from the historian's text. The air crackled, like electricity. I felt a presence, heavy and sorrowful. I kept going, my voice steady despite my fear. As I finished the chant, the photo began to smoke, the edges curling. The doll's eyes dimmed, the woman's face fading. I heard a faint cry, like a release, then silence. The air lightened, the oppressive feeling gone. I stared at the objects, now just a singed photo and a lifeless doll. Had it worked? I felt a weight lift, like something had been freed. I buried the remains in the mill's soil, hoping it would end the cycle. As I walked away, the mill felt quieter, at peace. I didn't look back, afraid of what I might see. Back home, I felt different, lighter, but haunted. I researched Amelia and Eliza one last time, finding a small note in an 1872 newspaper. It mentioned a memorial for a mother and daughter lost to tragic circumstances. No details, but I knew it was them. I felt a pang of sadness, but also relief. They were free, I hoped. The dream stopped, and the scratches from the drawer were gone. I kept the story to myself, unsure if anyone would believe me. The mill, the doll, the photo. It all felt like a dream now, but I knew it was real. I visited the mill one last time, to be sure. The air was normal, the ruins just ruins. The tree with the H1871 was still there, but it felt like a memory, not a warning. I thought about Amelia, so young, caught in something she didn't understand. And Eliza, trapped by a man's obsession. I hoped they'd found peace, wherever they were. I left a flower on the spot where I'd buried the remains, a small gesture. The photograph's power was gone, but its story stayed with me. I'd never look at old photos the same way again. This journey changed me, made me question what's real and what's hidden. Those eyes, Amelia's, the doll's, Eliza's, taught me to look closer, to see what's beneath the surface. I still wonder about Vance, what drove him to such darkness. But I'm done chasing ghosts. The photograph and doll are gone, their secrets buried. I keep a digital copy, just in case, but I rarely look at it. The past is the past, and I'm letting it rest. If you've ever found something that felt alive, that held a story too big to ignore, you know what I mean. This is my story, and I'm glad I told it. If this story gave you chills, hit that subscribe button and join us for more haunting tales. Share your own eerie experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, keep looking closer. You never know what you might find.